Okay, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. Today's video, we're here for the finale of Mushoku Tensei Season 2. So, let's start off this video. I'm gonna preface everything I'm about to say by saying that if you liked last episode, good, don't let other people enjoy it. But for the people who had issues with it, I was basically an anime only. My memory of how things went down was so much worse than I remembered it being, as shown by some of my reactions to stuff, and that I didn't have a problem with how they were adapting things, because oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, did they mess things up. Now, like I said, if you enjoyed the episode, that is awesome. I'm glad you enjoyed the episode. However, we had a lot of talk in the Discord, and there was many people who took issue with things that different things that went down in that episode because of the way they adapted it. In the light novel, Rudy does still resolve himself to marry Roxy, but it goes down so differently that it's much easier to accept. People might not like it, but they can learn to accept it in the light novel. But in the anime, so many people didn't like it, nor did they want to accept it because of how terrible a job the anime did at adapting what they were supposed to adapt. I will go more in depth. So, now that we've hit the end of Season 2, I can continue saying this. I am a light novel reader. All my reactions are non-spoiler, as showcased by last week, because I literally remembered basically nothing that went on directly. But I have read the books before, so I remember the more major details. Like, I knew Roxy and Rudy were going to sleep together last week. I just forgot every other possible minor detail on how things went down. But my reactions are going to be non-spoiler up until the very end, where I'm going to talk spoilers. But seeing as we are at the end of Season 2, I'm going to take today's spoiler section and only discuss things that revolve around Season 2 in the light novel and how things were adapted. So I'm going to go a lot more in depth about stuff. I say a lot, I don't know how in depth I'm actually going to go. I'm going to discuss a lot more about last episode, although at this point I'm sure everybody has already heard what was taken out, what was cut by this point. But I'm going to go to that segment. In that segment, I'm going to go into stuff that was cut and changed from last episode, and then I'm going to attempt to remember this episode as well, and how this was changed up as well. At the end of the day, we will see how this episode plays out. I kind of held back talking about it in the Discord last week because I wasn't sure what was going to be put into this episode and what they were maybe going to add in here in the final episode, but we're going to find out today. So, once again, non-spoiler reaction. During the actual reaction, I will not talk about the light novel at all, or if I do, I will segment it off and put a little text on screen, so you are totally capable of skipping it as well. But at the end of the day, in the spoiler section at the end of this video, I'm only going to talk about stuff for Season 2. I will not discuss anything for Season 3, which I believe Season 3 was announced, actually, which is awesome. I will not talk about anything regarding Season 3 at all. So you are totally free as an anime only to come into that spoiler section for the first time in this entire Season 2, as I'm going to discuss overall Season 2 and my thoughts on the adaptation as a whole. I'm saying this as well because I know there's some people who like to just be anime only and not hear light novel readers talk about the light novel, so I'm sectioning off that specifically for that purpose. If you are an anime only who does not want to talk light novel, even if I'm not talking spoilers anymore, then you are free to not watch that. Anyway, that's enough of my rambling. This intro is really long. But yeah, per usual, feel free to check out the Patreon and Discord links in the description below. As far as the Discord goes, we talk about current anime, past anime, current manga, past manga, and have non-anime conversations as well. And as far as the Patreon goes, you get exclusives and uncuts to all of my reactions, so feel free to check out either of those of your own will. But now, without further ado, let's hop straight into Mushoku Tensei Season 2, Episode 24, or the finale of Season 2. Now, like I said, I have so much I could say about last week's episode, but I'm gonna save it. Oh my god, brother took off. That was sadness, not regret. Oh my god. Yeah, brother's worried something happened to his wife while he was gone. No OP today either, huh? Mmm. My god, the panic attack is real. Hello, Aisha. My god, just totally missing his arm. There she is. I like the hair growing out because she told him she was gonna grow her hair out. I also love the blue earrings. He is terrified that something bad happened while he was gone. Yeah, because the main guy told him he'd have regrets. Oh my god! My man was freaking out. That hand is just gone. Everybody's seeing this ish. Rudy, you got some explaining to do, brother. You really got some explaining to do. Well, it is time to break the bad news to Paul's biggest supporter. Ooh! Ooh! Is dead. Met his end is a crazy way to put it. They brought it. Oh, wow. There be the ashes. Yeah, brother's literally missing an arm. We've got several things to explain today. First, how Paul died. Second, how I cheated on you, Sylphie. See, the anime makes this feel so much worse than it needs to be. Because just, oh my god, it's just, I said I'd talk about it at the end. I said I would talk about it at the end. I'm not going to talk about it yet. We're just going to watch the episode play out and we're going to have a great time, okay? We're going to have a great time. You can tell she's trying to be so strong, but literally she was his biggest supporter by far. Man, she is very pregnant at this point. Wow. Gone. If your best wasn't good enough, no one's would be. I love that line. If your best wasn't good enough, no one's would be. That's a crazy line. Cause she truly knows how strong her brother is. Good lord, man. And to think this isn't all the news we have to break today. Oh my god. What a fun start to the episode. Okay, what's with that subtitle? No, Norn, you should hold on to it. What? She asked if she could hold on to it. What a weird subtitle. It should be, yes, Norn, you should hold on to it, not no, Norn. You keep a sword in your heart, too. Oh, he's saying exactly what Paul said to him back when they were kids. Like, really young, when Paul gave him his first sword, when Paul wanted him to be a swordsman all the way back then. Yeah, Lilia noticed then. I love the determination on her face. I love it. Like I've said before, whoa, hell, what are we doing here, Zenith? Well, like I've said before, Norn is one of my favorite characters in this entire series. Seems like she's just instinctively grabbing the gauntlet glove thing. The gloves. I feel like that's literally only gonna make it harder, yeah. Doubtful. It's doubtful, though. We'll have to put up with little inconveniences. Sophie just being the best. Yes. Just happy that her mom came back still. Jesus. We got at least one wholesome thing out of this so far, that her mom came back to her. Oh, notice how a certain blue-haired demon is not in this group. To break up your family time like that. Find the leader's grave when you make it. Was to make certain things like that didn't happen. Dropping that before she leaves, because we're about to get into an even more interesting conversation. I don't know if I'm excited for this, I'm gonna be honest. I don't directly remember how this went down in the light novels, to be fair. I'm just gonna act like my memory is just not there anymore, because last week I was proven so wrong at how I thought I remembered things. So I'm just going to assume the case is going to be the same here, and I'm going to have to watch the episode and then go take a peek at the book to see if my memory was correct or whatever it may be. But we're about to find out if any of my memory that I think is there is actually correct. All of them expectantly waiting. This conversation was already awkward for me to read in the books, and it is so much worse seeing it in anime form. However, like I've said before, it's much easier to digest and easier to accept in the light novels. The anime does not make that very easy. Oh wow. Okay, see, now what makes me even more irritated, last episode was adapted interestingly. Everybody knows that. I will talk about that in the spoiler section, like I said, but one thing the anime did that just made literally no sense was they had Rudy sleep with Roxy, wake up the next day, and then, like, along the way, be like, I promise I'd stay faithful to Sylvia. I can't do anything like that, when the Lenalis brought up marrying Roxy as well. And I was like, that is the dumbest thing I think I've ever seen. You already cheated on her. That's not how that works. So I'm glad they're doing this here for him to be like, I already cheated on you, I'm so sorry. Because the anime did that last week, and I was just like, it didn't click in my head at first. I think I even said something about it, because I called out how bullshit that was. I don't know why they did that. That made no sense. In an episode full of very interesting adaptation choices, that especially made no fucking sense to me whatsoever.
ルフィー姉さんがどんな気持ちで兄さんを待っていたか知ってて言ってるんですか？毎日ルディは大丈夫かな、ルディに会いたいね、ルディも今頃ご飯食べてるかなっての顔と声を知ってて言ってるんですか？父さんを助けられなかったのはしょうがないって思いました。左手も失って
I figure things just got that dangerous.
兄さんを責めることなんてできないって。
Damn!
女の人ってことですか？
違う、そんな余裕はなかった。自分の気持ちを捨てて助けてくれたんだ。
その場にいれば兄さんを助けたに決まってます。
She wasn't though. That's the problem, is that she wasn't there. Like, oh man, see, I could talk so much about what last episode adapted horribly because this dives straight into that, but I'm still gonna wait till the end of the episode. If you really want to hear how the anime divulges, specifically last episode, this episode, from what I remember, seems to be infinitely more faithful to how the light novel went. That is just how it seems to me so far, coming from someone whose memory is clearly like a goldfish because I didn't remember shit from last episode correctly. We will see how they finish out the episode, and then obviously I really think it's going to be an anomaly because I truthfully think this series has done better than most light novel adaptations ever do adapting the source material. I feel like Mushoku Tensei has done a way better job than most, even if I personally think season 2 is, I don't know, it's not bad. Season 2 is not bad, but as far as adaptation wise goes, I would say it is much worse than season 1. I still think it's a solid adaptation. Most light novel adaptations are fucking horrendous. Most of them are awful. Class of the Elite. This series does a really good job, and so I truthfully think, given what I've seen from this episode so far, that the last episode is going to be and will stay an anomaly when it comes to adapting the series. The Hydra fight was gorgeous and amazing and adapted very well. Then you get to that episode and you're like, okay, what the fuck happened? And then we get to this episode and we're back on track again. So, at the end of the day, I think that is going to stay an anomaly, but it's still worth talking about that anomaly to fill in people who might not have liked it, because I know there was a lot of people who did not like that episode, and that's reasonable. That is totally reasonable. Like I said, if you enjoyed the episode, that's awesome. I'm really happy for you. However, there is a lot of people who didn't, and obviously when I go into the end of episode discussion, I'm going to explain why last episode was so messed up. Okay, rant over. I'll talk about, like I said, I'm just gonna hold my thoughts and talk about them at the end of the video. That's true. Yeah, a little girl like her. Actually, she's like 40. Yeah, she's like 40 something.
ノル言い過ぎだ。ロキシーを妻に迎えるって言い出したのは俺なんだ。彼女は身を引こうとしてくれたんだ。
兄さんは黙っていてください。なんで最後までそうしようとしないんですか？逆に兄さんの言葉に
You just took advantage of his offer, didn't you?
そうですね。ずうずうしいです。申し訳ありませんでした。
Oh damn, she's gonna go leave.
反対されることは分かっていた。だがロキシーに嫌な思いをさせたまま彼女を幸せにするって決めたのに。どうすれば。
待って。
It is the woman of the house who has not spoken a single word since Rudy started talking and Norn and him started arguing. Not spoken a single word. It's time to hear what she has to say.
ロキシーさん、待ってください。なんで引き止めるんですか、シルフィーネ。行かせればいいじゃないですか。僕のために。でも大丈夫だから、ありがとう。ちょっと混乱してたけど、ロキシーさんはルディを助けてくれたんだよね。でも下心もありましたので、言い訳に使うつもりはありません。
I wouldn't have believed you if you told me you didn't.
僕がロキシーさんの立場でも、僕は時間の問題だと思ってたんだ。
Until Rudy brought another woman home.
ほら。ルディってエッチでしょ？きっと誰かとしちゃうだろうなって。
If he could, wow, she thought he had that little restraint. To be fair, he had the utmost restraint of doing anything with anybody unless he got hit with a succubi spell, which that you can't really do anything. It literally poisons your mind. But yeah, he literally only ended up sleeping with Roxy, like, when he would not come out of his room for a month. Once again, that's getting into end of episode discussion stuff, but it applies to this scene as to why he would sleep with her. Because while Sylvia is talking about how she thought he would sleep with somebody if she wasn't there, he actually was trying to be as faithful as possible. And if Paul would have lived, realistically, this scenario would not be happening at the moment. Once again, I'm gonna have to go take a peek at my light novels that I have on my shelf to see exactly what Sylphie said, but this feels along the lines of what I remember her saying.
僕もあんな顔だったのかな。不快なものを見せてしまって。不快じゃなかったよ。なんて言えばいいかな。ロキシーさんのことはルディからいつも聞いてたから。
Yeah. What does he say?
俺の尊敬する魔術師は、それはなんというか恐縮です。ちょっと嫉妬してるところもあったんだよなって。でも実際に見て嫉妬なんて消えちゃったんだ。だって僕と一緒だもん。
I mean, you're just like me.
ノルンちゃんはああ言ったけど、僕は歓迎します。一緒にルディを支えていこう。ありがとうございます。
Well, Rudy, that went way better than you could have literally ever hoped it could have gone. that went so much better than brother could have ever hoped for.
ルディはミリス教徒じゃないんだから。でもパウロさんだって奥さんが2人いたんだよ。
Yeah, you're being just a tad bit hypocritical. Now, I mean, there's a lot to say about Rudy, but you are being a tad bit hypocritical with the way that she unconditionally supported Paul, and he had 2 wives. He cheated on Zenith originally as well. Damn. Yeah, your sister would not be here if that hadn't happened.
それにしても
でも気持ちはちょっとわかるかな。大切な人が遠くで戦っているのに。
Just waiting while people you care about go off and fight, yeah.
シルフィー、予定日はいつなんですか？あと1ヶ月ちょっとかな。でもロキシー、本当にいいの？結婚するのをそれまで待つ必要なんてないよ。正直シルフィーには申し訳ない気持ちが大きいので。
So please let me wait until you give birth.
ロキシーがそう言うなら、うん、わかった。楽しみですね。早く会いたいな。生まれました。
シルフィー、お疲れ様。
The baby is here.
シルフィエット様。
Her hair isn't green. She got Rudy's hair color.
ルディも抱いてあげて。
With one arm. Well, I guess he's got a nub here. He can still hold her with the nub. Sorry, that's probably not the right thing to be thinking about in this scene.
ルディの子だよ。
Yeah, man. You started being reincarnated into this world as a shut-in, complete pervert, which... Let's not act like he is, and Rudy is still a pervert. But he's much more closeted. Or towards his lover. But, yeah, man. He came in here as a trash scumbag who skipped his parents' funeral and got hit by a car. And look at him now. I mean, he has truthfully come so far. Ah, she's got Sylphie's eyes, too. Also, I love how this is the frame. Norm was so adverse to letting Roxy hear him, was just showering her with insults, and these two here just holding hands. 'Tis a momentous occasion. Yep.
パウロ、父さん、久しぶり。俺、父親になったよ。
Pour him one out for him.
シルフィーの子供だし、きっと美人になるよ。父さんにも見せたかったな。子供は生まれたよ。あの時俺を生かしてくれたから。
Because you saved me that day, I can hold my daughter now.
父さんがいなかったら、名前はルーシーに決めた。
Lucy.
文字を取ったんだ。それから妻が2人。父さんと一緒だな。
Oh, shoot, taught me how to approach times like this.
父さんは
I'm almost certain he did.
でも父さんだからな。俺もあんまり難しく考えない方がいいのかな。父さん、俺ダメな息子だったよ。前世の記憶とか持っててさ。
So I couldn't face you like a son should.
けど今はもうパウロ・グレイラットの息子のつもりだから。俺ようやく分かったよ。自分がまだまだ子供だったって。前世の記憶で大人ぶって
Just a brat using old memories to act grown up. It's a great way to put it. That's a great way to put it. I was a brat using memories from my past life to act grown up.
きっともっとたくさん失敗していっぱい悩みながら。
Tis the way of life, Rudy. Tis the way of life. Nobody doesn't fail.
父さんもそうだったんだろう。
Isn't that how you did it?
俺頑張れよ。父さんがそうしてくれたみたいに。じゃあまた来る。今度はみんなを連れて。
Next time I'll bring the whole family. Damn! New insert song here to wrap up the season.
ついた。
Nah, Lena Lee's and Cliff.
嬉しいことは大きな失敗も繰り返してしまった。けれど
I love that. I love it. I love it. I love it. But this isn't the end. Go on living in this world.
いつ死んでも後悔しないように本気で。
So I can die without regrets. That's the end of season 2, gang. That's it. Mushoku Tensei Jobless Reincarnation 2. Thank you. Ah, the picture of Rudy and Paul. Stop it. Oh man, there's still more actually. Yep, this is them announcing season 3. It's not translated, which is odd. Yep. Wow.
第3期制作決定。
My fucking favorite light novel series is getting a season 3. What a joyous day. Now, we've got a lot to talk about. So, instead of doing like a normal, I guess I'll do an end of episode discussion. Thank you guys. The support on this second half of season 2 has been kind of unreal compared to the first half. Then again, when I reacted to the first half of season 2, my channel was so small. I was less than like 1,000 subscribers. I had very few people watching my videos. And so those videos did extremely well for the time that I uploaded them. And then in this second half, the support has continued to be absolutely phenomenal. I can't even describe it. Truly, I mean, I don't know if I've ever really said this before, like in a Mushoku Tensei video, but this is my favorite light novel series I've ever read. Like, it is my favorite series I've ever read, and I haven't even... Excuse me, and I haven't even finished it. I still have... I stopped on like volume 18, and there's 26 volumes. This season ended on volume 12 for anybody curious. Just so you know how much we still have left. We have 14 more volumes to cover. So this series will not be ending for a long time. But to see they're adapting, they're announcing a season 3 already is amazing, and I could not be more excited for I could legitimately say this is my favorite series of all time. I could say that. I could legitimately say that. Yeah, I just thank you guys, because I love this show so much, and I'm glad I was able to discuss things with everybody, and especially with an episode like they did last week, that I was able to get in such in-depth conversations about a series that I love so much, such as this one. As I say at the beginning of every video, it has been legitimately 2 years since I last picked up a Mushoku Tensei light novel volume. I had wholeheartedly forgotten a lot more than I thought I did. I.e. last episode where I thought I remembered how things went down, and I could not have been further from the truth. This episode, like I said, I feel like I remember a lot more, but once again, that's getting into more like light novel comparison for things that happened throughout the season. Like I said, if you want to see me compare the light novel to the anime, and I'm only gonna compare season 2 once again, so if you're anime only, you are totally free to check out that section, because I'm not gonna talk season 3 stuff at all. I'm gonna leave that barred. I'm not gonna talk about it. I might end up sectioning off an even further section where I discuss season 3 stuff. If I do that, you guys will see the YouTube chapters. You will know not to go there. For now, when I get there, that'll be that. But I've got a few more finishing thoughts here. I think this was a better adapted half. I think, well, that's just going straight into light novel comparison talk. What am I saying? As a whole, I think this part was awesome. The Hydra fight was phenomenal. A lot of the episodes leading up to it, adventuring with Alina Lees, stuff like that was really, really good. This finale was very good, very wholesome. The conversations were awkward, but that's how they're supposed to be. These are not fun conversations these characters are having. That's kind of the point. And I remember one big thing was there was a lot of speculation as to why Sylphie would accept something like this, except like also Rudy marrying Roxy. And I believe there's many different possible explanations, but I believe some of the leading ones, which once again, this isn't light novel comparison, this is just straight up explaining why she would accept something like this. I believe one of them was Sylphie has a bit insecure in that she doesn't even feel like she's worthy of being Rudy's wife in the first place. I believe that is a theory that people tossed around. Granted, it is very possible I am totally wrong on these theories. I have not gotten super in depth on this kind of stuff since I read 2 years ago. But I remember it being that she was already kind of insecure and that she didn't feel like she deserved to be Rudy's wife already. Number two, I mean, can I say that? I don't know if I can say that. Sylphie's a little bit on the freakier side. She just is. That'll 100% be explored, possibly more next season. I'm not sure. I'm gonna be totally honest. Like I said, my memory is so hazy, but I remember that was one of the possible theories people came up with, was that Sylphie is just a little freaky. God, I know there was other ones and they're slipping my mind and it is annoying me because it gives a lot of reason, because even the books don't state directly why Sylphie would accept something like this, although she tried to give the reason, like, I thought Rudy would do this someday. That reasoning stems from her already feeling like she doesn't deserve to be his wife. Like that stems from that fact already, and so that just ties back into another explanation that I already said. So anyway, I'm sure the light novel readers who are more up to date with this series and keep up with it a lot more than I do will have a more concrete explanation. Or if I'm misremembering, maybe it is more thoroughly explained, and maybe it is will be more thoroughly explained next season. I just don't remember it being, and so I remember people having to speculate on why exactly she would accept this proposal, and a lot of different reasons came up at the end of the day. But yeah, this part of the season was great. I think the adventuring stuff was done pretty well, about as well as they could for how much content they were trying to cover. And yeah, I love our little family here. This final frame is a really, really good frame to end it on. But yeah, as far as non-light novel comparison stuff, I'm not gonna say spoilers this time because this is not a spoiler section. It is not going to be a spoiler section. As far as that goes, if you do not want to hear me compare the light novel and the anime, the video's over. That's it. Thank you guys for watching. This season 2 has been a blast to watch. As like I said, this is possibly my favorite series of all time, and I thank you all for being here to enjoy this show with me. But for you guys, I think that is gonna wrap it up for this reaction. Hope you guys did enjoy, and I hope you all have a good day. Now we're gonna get into some light novel comparison stuff. Once again, this is not a spoiler section. I am not talking about spoilers, so anybody is free to watch this. I'm only going to compare the light novel to season 2. That's all I'm gonna do. And mostly we're gonna very heavily focus on volume 12 specifically, because the rest of the stuff has already been mulled over and talked over a ton. So I'm just gonna very quickly brief over the first part of season 2, where I personally thought it was all right, but I had a few issues with it. More specifically, Rudy's friend group I don't think was very thoroughly developed. That friend group in the light novel is one of the most fun friend groups to read about. Genuinely one of the most fun friend groups to read about, consisting of Rudy, Zenoba, Linnea, Persena, Nanahoshi later on, like we saw in this section of the season. Then you had Cliff, Julie, Alina Lees, I believe, was there sometimes. But overall, this friend group was truthfully so fun to read in the light novel, and I feel like you just didn't get that same feeling in the light novel or in the anime, because they didn't take a whole ton of time to develop that friend group or give you scenes of them together. Because in the light novel, like every other chapter, you would have Rudy hanging out with his friend group, like, and so you just get their natural everyday conversations, and you would grow to love them over time. That is one thing I do think was not given enough attention to detail in the first core of season 2. The Sylphie stuff was done pretty well. I think that stuff was done pretty well. Like the season 2 episode 0 was good, giving us her backstory, and then trailing into her confession and how she had him remember who she was. That was pretty good too. All of that objectively I think was done very well. So like I said, season 2 part 1, at the end of the day, I understand. It's not like I don't understand how impossibly difficult it is to adapt a light novel to anime format. Adapting books is fucking hard, man. There is so much content in books. It is absolutely insane. But yes, I think season 2 part 1 did an alright job. It wasn't bad. Trust me, like I said at the beginning of this video, there is so many worse light novel adaptations out there than Mushoku Tensei. This series does a pretty good job, all things considered. And I give this series the benefit of the doubt for season 2 because they had a different director from season 1 to season 2 core 1 and season 2 core 2. There was a different director for all 3 of those. And so I'm hoping now that we maybe get a steadfast director that things will feel a lot smoother, and we'll get the hang of things as we go forward. But yeah, honestly, my biggest complaint with season 2 part 1 was some of the cut content that kind of messed with some character growth and development. But at the end of the day, there's literally nothing they can do about that because of how impossibly difficult it already is to adapt light novels. So I don't blame the studio. I don't blame anyone for that. I blame how difficult it is to adapt a book faithfully to an anime. So those were my main complaints with season 2 part 1, honestly. Also the animation definitely took a hit, a pretty bad hit, honestly. Actually, oh yeah, I totally forgot about all the Sarah stuff. I actually think that was done alright. The animation, once again, was kind of hit or miss at times, but I actually think season 2 part 1's the Sarah arc was actually done very well. I talked about it in those videos as well, that I think they actually did a pretty decent job with that. But yeah, then you get into this part, and I think this part was done phenomenally well. Like, the Norn episode is one of my favorite episodes of the entire series. We had two of the best episodes of the entirety of Mushoku Tensei this season, with the Norn episode and the Hydra fight episode, but you also had one of the most abysmally bad episodes of the entire series, aka last episode. I don't want to call it a bad episode because I know there was people out there who genuinely enjoyed it, and that's great. And I enjoyed it on first watch as well. I did. I mean, you saw my reaction. That wasn't a fake reaction or anything. I did enjoy the episode on first watch, but going back, obviously, it had a lot of adaptation issues. So, the beginning part of season 2 part 2 I think was done exceptionally well. The Norn stuff was done really well. Sylphie and Rudy developing and all of the above. The Nanahoshi stuff was done super well. Overall, season 2 part 2 was very good in very many parts. Despite the fact that I still think, like, obviously with the light novel adaptation, there was still a ton of cut content, which once again, nothing they can do about that. I'm not blaming anybody for that. And then you get to the volume 12 content. So, if I remember correctly, once again, we know how good my memory was after last week. I could pull the light novel down, but I don't want to spend 30 minutes reading what the content for this episode was. If I'm going to do that, I will just put text on screen relaying some of my new thoughts after I go through and read. I might get in and skim through here in a minute, but we'll see if I end up doing that. So it starts with Rudy and Alina Lee's journeying. I believe that's where it starts. It might be at the end of volume 11, but I don't think that's the case. So Rudy and Alina Lee's begin their journey. They get there. There was some cut content of their journey on... Actually, I say some. There was a lot of cut content of their journey on the way there, which, once again, it's just going to happen. I think the journey on the way there was still done very well. Sorry, my back of my throat is bothering me. And then we get there. We obviously have to go save Roxy. I think that was done very well. Rudy's panic and whatever. I still think the Roxy reunion was not adapted very well. Me personally, the tone of the light novel felt way more serious, way more endearing, and like a very heartfelt reconnection between the two of them, with obviously Roxy falling in love and Rudy just being so exasperated and like so thankful that his master is alive at the end of the day. But I feel like the anime didn't do that. I feel like they went for a more comedy approach. I feel like if there's anything, last episode and that are my biggest complaints. I think the animation looked great for that segment in a season, the entirety of season 2 that has had some hit or miss animation at times. But I think I also didn't really like how they adapted it. It wasn't terrible or anything. It just didn't have the tone I was looking for at the end of the day. They actually adapted it pretty faithfully from what everybody told me in the comments. They adapted that scene pretty faithfully. But it just, I don't know, didn't hit like I was expecting it to. Which you can't have it all. So I'm not here to complain about that too much. Then obviously Roxy starts flirting with Rudy, and Rudy is just none the wiser. And then we get the Hydra fight, and Paul dies. That episode was phenomenal. Everything that was adapted about that episode, purely like amazing. Truthfully, that was one of the best adapted episodes, if not the best adapted episode. The way the fight was done, I legitimately like remember some of the attacks that certain people did and some of the moves that were done. Like they were done in the anime, and I was like, oh shit, I remember reading about that. It was crazy how well they did it one-to-one with the light novel. It was done extremely well. I know there was definitely some parts of the fight that were still cut out for some other characters' moments, like Talhand or Alina Lee's maybe got some of their moments cut out a little bit, but at the end of the day, that fight was fucking awesome and so damn good. Fucking awesome and so damn good, huh? Now we get to the most episode of all time for Mushoku Tensei. Whoops. I mean, I want to keep that frame on screen. I could scroll through this episode honestly, but like I said, I think this was probably the most faithfully adapted episode. Well, not the most, but a more faithfully adapted episode than the last one. Truth be told, there is so much to say about that episode. So many people had so many different problems, like how people thought that Roxy was coming onto Rudy and taking advantage of a mentally worn Rudy to sleep with him, which is not the case at all, because at that point, Rudy had been in his room for a month and was not eating. The anime did not say that. It also did not say that Roxy had been trying to get him out of his room daily for an entire month, and he continued shutting her down over and over and over. It also did not say that Alina Lees told I mean, I guess it implied it. It did not say that Alina Lees told Roxy as a last-ditch effort. This was not their first idea, because what the anime did, it just made Roxy seem like a sex-crazed whatever going in there to sleep with Rudy immediately after the events happen, which is not how it went down at all. It had been a month of her trying to get him out of there with whatever she could, and nothing sexual, until Alina Lees was like, go attempt to sleep with him, it will jumpstart something, some kind of reaction out of Rudy, because he hadn't been giving her anything for a month. And so Roxy agrees, fucking incredibly nervous to do so, but she goes in there and attempts to seduce Rudy, to which she gets nothing. Nothing happens. She gets up to leave because nothing happens. Like, she doesn't get on top of him like the anime has it. She doesn't have sex with him right there like the anime has it. That's not how things happen at all. She gets up to leave, and Rudy is the one who reaches out, grabs her arm, and gets on top of her. That is how it went down. The anime fully demonized Roxy by cutting out so much little context details throughout the entire thing. That bothered me so much after I read about it and I read what they had cut, because all it does is make Roxy look like a piece of shit. It makes it look like she was going there to take advantage of Rudy for sex, which once again, that's not at all what happened. So Rudy then gets on top of her, and I believe it's something along the lines of, like, she says, we can do it or whatever, and so they have sex. well, my personal opinion is the anime did it because they didn't want Rudy to look bad. But there's no way for him to not look bad here. He fucks up. He fucks up badly. And the light novel addresses that heavily. It's not like the anime where Rudy wakes up the next morning and just does a little like that, like he just puts his hand over his face and breathes out. No, he has a whole inner monologue about how he cheated on Sylphie. He can't believe what he did. Like, he is wallowing in guilt the next morning after he sleeps with Roxy. But it's woken back up, and that was the end goal. That was the end goal for Roxy and Alina Lees, was to wake Rudy up and snap him out of the state he'd been in. He was literally a husk for like a month. And that was what they did to snap him out of it, and it worked. That was their end goal. And I feel like the anime did not highlight that enough. While Roxy, of course, wanted to sleep with Rudy, let's not act like she didn't want to do that. She wasn't going to take advantage of a mentally torn and mentally weak person. She wasn't going to do that. That is so out of character for her. She was so scared to do it, and she only did it with him when he got on top of her. That is the only time she did it, was when he initiated. So I feel like the anime fails in so many regards there and demonizes one of literally my favorite characters ever. I love Roxy so fucking much, and the anime demonizes her so badly in the last episode. It actually hurts how bad they did her. So that is still only scratching the surface of what they cut, because obviously Roxy there's a whole scene between Alina Lees before Roxy sleeps with him. There's a whole scene with Alina Lees where they break it to her that Rudy's married, and she freaks the fuck out and then like decides she's gonna back off. So she just tries to get him out of his room every day until nothing works. And so Alina Lees, who she does a lot of plotting later on in this arc as well, that being what was supposed to be adapted into that episode, she loves Roxy. Like, her and Roxy are like best buds at this point, because they were friends when they were traveling looking for Rudy, and then they met up again and they became even better friends through Paul's death. And so Alina Lees wanted to see Roxy happy, and so to get that, she plots to get Rudy to marry her. I'm not joking. Alina Lees plots to get Rudy to marry Roxy so that she can be happy, because she wants to see Roxy happy. The anime super lightly touches on that. Excuse me. The anime super lightly touches on that, and I feel like it does it such a disservice to how much plotting Alina Lees really did to get Rudy to marry Roxy, because Rudy was very steadfast in the idea that he was not going to marry her because he already cheated and was unfaithful to Sylphie. Even if he loved Roxy, even all the above, he was extremely steadfast that he wasn't going to marry her. Maybe he was wavering at this point, but he was still of the mindset that he wasn't going to marry her or anything like that. I don't even think marrying was a thought in his mind at this point. I could be wrong about that. These are some more details that are a little bit wishy-washy because I didn't go back and fully read the light novel. I just I skimmed through and read different comments and put together my memories for what I remember for what happened here. I still suggest you read the light novel for that episode. It will make you feel a lot better about the situation. That's all I gotta say. Just even if you don't like books, read it for that segment, because it will make you feel a lot better about the situation. Because like I said, the whole situation is obviously not good by our standards, but the light novel makes it so you are able to accept it even if you don't like it at first. With all the events going on and everything, the way that it's written makes it so you are able to accept that it is a thing happening. The anime does not do that very well. Because I had so many people in the Discord. I mean, we had so many extensive conversations about the scenes throughout that episode, and it was so funny because people had different problems with different scenes, which I think goes to show how badly adapted the episode was, that different things in different parts of the episode bothered people. So, at the end of the day, we start traveling back. This is after they've slept. Rudy in the light novel has a whole conversation with Roxy, I believe, where he brings up this whole hypothetical scenario about a shut-in, and he basically is telling his life story to her and asking what he should do next now that Paul is dead. I can't remember what the advice Roxy gives him is. It might have been something similar to what the anime said. I honestly don't remember, but that was a whole other scene that was super heartfelt and super well done that was completely cut from the episode, where they have this like heart-to-heart conversation about him and where he should go from here. And so then obviously the whole "I'll be your left hand" thing occurs, and the entire journey she's like side by side with him until he confronts her about it. I believe even like her confession of love was a lot different in the light novel, and his as well. I believe both of those were different in the light novel. I can't remember how those go though, but those truthfully aren't that important compared to the rest of the stuff that I need to cover. So I'm sure at this point a lot of you have already looked into what happens, so this might mean literally nothing to you, me explaining to it, but this is a light novel comparison segment, so I'm gonna compare the two. So in the anime, we get a brief thing with Alina Lee's trying to convince him to marry Roxy, to asking if he's part of Mila's faith, which I do believe that still occurs. However, and they skipped one huge thing that ended up pushing Rudy over the edge where he agreed to marry Roxy, was that Alina Lee's told him that she hadn't had that time of the month come. And so she made Rudy think that he got Roxy pregnant. And so this Lee, I don't want to, I'm not trying to demonize Alina Lee's here, because I remember there was a lot more to it than just that base explanation that I gave you there. But yes, Alina Lee's because she wanted to see Roxy happy. Number one, she knew Sylphie. She had talked with her enough to have some kind of an idea that she might accept this proposal. She knew Sylphie wasn't so stern about her beliefs or whatever that she would just flat out reject it without any consideration. Alina Lee's knew this. She also knew that Rudy loved Roxy and also loved Sylphie at the same time. And she knew that her best friend Roxy was suffering greatly after obviously having separated herself from Rudy, so that Rudy could go back to his wife. She knew that Roxy was going through stuff pretty badly, so she lied because she wanted Rudy to marry both of them because she knew that it would make Roxy happy, and she knew there was a chance. That Sylphie would accept it. I am still skipping out on details there because I don't remember the whole thing, but that is the baseline for what happens here. Alina Lee's lies to Rudy and makes him think that Roxy is pregnant. And through this, he resolves himself to take responsibility for his actions. Number one, for cheating on Sylphie. Number two, for sleeping with Roxy and making her what he thinks is pregnant, but she's not actually pregnant, obviously. Alina Lee's lies to him to obviously make him do what he does and take responsibility and marry her if she is actually pregnant. Because Alina Lee's doesn't straight up say that she's pregnant. All she says is that Roxy hadn't had that time of the month, which implies that she might be pregnant, because that doesn't always immediately mean that you are pregnant. And so the whole thing, Rudy resolves himself to take responsibility if Roxy is pregnant, and so he goes forth with this idea that if Roxy is pregnant, he's going to take responsibility, take whatever shit he gets from Sylphie. Like, the whole reason he marries her is because he thinks she's pregnant and he wants to take responsibility for cheating on Sylphie and getting her pregnant. He wants to take responsibility for these actions, which, like I said, the light novel makes it so that even if you don't like it, you are able to accept it at the end of the day. And I'm doing a horrible job at explaining. Truthfully, I'm doing a terrible job at explaining how things actually went down. If you really want to, like I said, please go read the light novel. Even just for that section, you don't have to read the whole light novel if you don't like books. Just read it for the content that was covered in that episode, because they butchered it really, really, really badly. Anyway, I did a horrible job of explaining it. The books will do a lot better than me, but that is kind of the basis for things that were cut and things that were changed in the episode. Now, I do remember specifically someone in the Discord, Nailu, had a problem with the fact that Rudy was attempting to marry two people in the first place, that he was practicing polyamory. Polyamory? That's the word, right? I believe polyamory. Yeah, okay, polyamory, I was right. Sorry, I get the two mixed up, where it's like monogamous means you have one, and then polyamorous means you have two, or multiple lovers. So he had a problem with the fact that Rudy was because Rudy coming from our world would go through something like this in the first place. And like I said, in the light novel with the whole pregnant situation and Rudy wanting to take responsibility for his actions, it makes it a lot more acceptable. However, there's even more, because the whole point of that episode and what's covered in that episode is characters' happiness. Alina Lee's only pushed Rudy to marry Roxy because she hated seeing Roxy so miserably depressed. Rudy was also struggling because in the back of his mind he loved Roxy but wanted to stay faithful to Sylphie. So Rudy was unhappy in a way because he was unable to marry her, which that is his own decision because he wanted to stay as faithful as he could to Sylphie. And then Alina Lee's also took into account that Sylphie probably would accept her. Now, that's a whole other question about Sylphie's happiness, but I believe there's even a line from Alina Lee's where she says something along the lines of like, I'm Roxy's friend before I'm Sylphie's grandmother, which is crazy because I believe Rudy even asks like, you would tell me to marry another girl when I'm already married to your granddaughter. And then I think Alina Lee's follows that up with the line I just said where she's like, I'm Roxy's best friend before I'm Sylphie's grandmother. Mushoku Tensei is filled with morally gray characters, and that is definitely a morally interesting thing for Alina Lee's to do. But she pushes him to marry, and I actually think that's a more great added context that Rudy questions why Alina Lee's would push him to marry Roxy when he's already married to Sylphie, of whom is her granddaughter. And that explanation there definitely clears that up a little bit. At the end of the day, though, I think that episode butchered quite a lot. I actually think this episode did a pretty good job. There was definitely still cut content, don't get me wrong, there definitely was, but Nord arguing with Rudy about how he cheated on Sylphie, and then Sylphie talking to Roxy about accepting it. I can't remember how exactly that conversation went between the two of them, but I really do think it was similar to how they did it in the show. Once again, if I'm wrong about this, I will overlay some text on screen about what actually goes down or whatever it may be. I'm already gonna be spending the rest of today editing this video anyway, because I've been recording for nearly an hour and 10 minutes, but I have a lot to say. So yeah, at the end of the day, I don't think I did a very good job of explaining. I'm sorry if I only confused you more, but I really wish I could explain it better. I do. I swear I do. Maybe what I should do is, after I post this video, go live stream me reading the light novel or something for that segment so you guys can get a better feeling of what actually occurred there. I don't know. I'm just tossing out ideas at this point. But the whole point is that that episode was not done very well. And as I'm going to repeat the phrase one more time before I end this video. But it's not that it's not that people like what's happening, but the light novel does such a good job at writing this scenario that people can learn to accept it. That is what I truly believe. I personally was of the camp that I didn't really care. I love Roxy and I have loved her the entire series, so seeing her getting married to Rudy, I wasn't that upset, to be honest. And the way the light novel did it with her sleeping with him and all the above, I wasn't mad at her at all. Because all she wanted to do was help Rudy, even if at the back of her mind she might have had some thoughts about sleeping with him. Her whole mental process was how desperately she wanted to help get him out of his room and bring him back to some sense of normalcy. I love Roxy, I still do, even if they demonized her character really badly in the last episode. I love her so much still. I also love Sylphie as well. I love all the characters in the series. There's not a single character in the series that I dislike. Truthfully, I love all the characters in this series. But that is my explanation for what happened last episode. I like I said, I actually do really think this episode adapted pretty faithfully, all things considered. And yeah, season 3 is going to be quite a ride, so I hope you guys are strapped in for that. Like I said, if you want a better explanation than me rambling around, jumping from different parts in the episode to different things, because my mind was all over the place while I was trying to thoroughly explain that to you guys, go read the light novel segment for that. Like I said, if you hate light novels, don't read the whole book, just read that segment so you can be a little bit more informed. Especially read it if you disliked how last episode went. That is my biggest piece of advice. If you dislike how last episode went, read the light novel for that section. Just read it. and act like that episode was an anime original thing that did not happen. Just act like it doesn't exist. The light novel is your headcanon for that scene, for that episode, if you specifically disliked something that happened throughout it. At the end of the day, though, this season was good. I like I said, I have some minor complaints here and there, but overall, just seeing this stuff animated is... I've waited so long for this. I've waited so long to see this stuff animated. So at the end of the day, even if I have a few complaints, that is nothing compared to the fact that I get to see my favorite series getting an anime adaptation at the end of the day. So, I think that's about it though. I could talk about season 3 stuff, but I think I'll just save that until season 3 actually starts for me to get my thoughts out there about it and whatnot. But yeah, I think that is going to wrap it up for my reaction to Mushoku Tensei Season 2. I don't know when Season 3 is coming out, probably 2026 if I had to guess, sometime around then. I really hope they take their time to get things right, because if they get things right, the stuff if they're going to do a split core again, the stuff in the first core of Season 3 is going to be the best stuff of the entire series up to this point, and it will not even have been close. But yeah, I don't think I have much else to say. I ended up talking for an eternity, and you guys are probably tired of hearing me talk. So I think that is going to wrap it up for my reaction to Mushoku Tensei Season 2. I hope you guys did enjoy, and I hope you all have a good day.